Hi, we're just waiting for a few more attendees to come in. So if we just hold off, and then we'll get started, guys. Yeah, we've still got a few more people coming in. Looks like we've got a good attendance today. So thanks for taking the time out, everyone. Okay, so it looks like people are still coming in. So maybe we've got one or two technical issues, as we all do on these webinars. So we'll just hold off 30 seconds or so, and we'll jump straight in. We should be okay for time. So thank you for attending again. Okay, right. Let's just start. I think we've still got a few people still coming in, so we'll just start and we'll try and get it in underneath the 45 minutes. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our unveiling of ROI Your Business for GenAI. Thank you for your time today. It's going to be myself. So I'm Technical Director of Catalyst BI. And Ben, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Lee. I'm Ben Johnson, data scientist at Catalyst BI. Been working with Catalyst for the last 7 or so years now, with a background in business intelligence and Azure consultancy. And now I'm fortunate enough to head up our data science practice.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. So our agenda today, I'm sure you've got this on the invite, but that's our agenda. But more importantly, I think what is the objective today? And really, what I'd like us all to kind of come away with is getting you up to speed with generative AI, some idea of high level concepts, understanding the art of the possible, and understand some risks and challenges, because Gen AI is still relatively new and there are some unique risks and challenges there. And really, just let's finish off with a question and answer and some discussions, and with some use case ideas, and hopefully give you that initial thought processes of how you get started with Gen AI if you haven't already. Um, so first off, before we do that, Catalyst BI, our strapline, I think, says everything. We challenge organizations. We unlock our insights, drive performance and value by bringing all that data together. We don't just do data science. I know that's what today's webinar is about, but we also do a plethora of data elements. So we've got data management, we've got data analytics, as well as data science. And essentially just grabbing all of the data and pulling it in together, so it allows you to action your insights, really. From the data science side, you can see that we just got a high level logo splash on there, but we deal with DataRobot, which we'll see and talk about later on. We also use the Click platform as well to do predictive. And we also deliver and work within the Microsoft Azure stack as well. So that's just some high level technical view. It will be an interactive session today. We're using a technology called Slido. If you haven't used that before, you should get a 4D barcode coming up. Please click on that. Leave that session open, because you can ask questions via that, not via Zoom, via Slido. The benefit of that is you just have one window open rather than going from Zoom and into Slido, etc. But please ask questions. Put it onto that Slido session. Leave the window open. We're going to be interacting by using a number of polls, and we'll also be doing a post-webinar questionnaire. So if I could ask you to complete that, that'd be great. We like to get feedback of how informative this session was. And then, please feel free to talk to us. We'll put a email at the end of the webinar as well as a 4D for our LinkedIn profiles, both myself and Ben. So please reach out. Don't feel like you can't reach out to us. We're a friendly bunch, I promise. So let's start the session by doing a quick poll. So just to get everything started, I'd like to understand kind of where you are in your journey with generative AI. So we are using this tech called Slido. So if you've never used it before, or use your mobile to scan that 4D, or just go put up a new browser and go to slido.com and stick the number in. Again, keep that window open for questions. You can put those questions in there in that session. Hopefully, yeah, there we go. We've got some answers coming through now. So, and we'll see where everybody's at. So looks like we've got a good. Right, we've got some questions, answers coming in. Okay, ChatGPT, not unexpected exploratory discussions again. Yeah. Okay, so some of you guys have already got some solutions live, so that's good. And we've got one or two that I've never heard of it. Great, even better. So we can use this, and again, keep that window open if you can, whether you've done it on mobile or the browser. Please keep that open. So I think as most businesses, and as we have that conversation, we've still got people coming in, are using ChatGPT, but haven't spoke about it within the business. It's kind of normal, I think, where people are. You know, like the top of the hype curve with generative AI at this moment in time. People use ChatGPT. I know I use it in my everyday life for business presentations, for image selection and generation, etc. So yeah, but we don't know where we're going. Okay. Thank you for that, but leave that window open and we'll come back. There's a couple of more polls, but again, please do use that window for questions that you've got. So let's start with our kind of 101. What is generative? And I suppose the context in generative AI, if we go back to kind of 1983, Time magazine had a personal computer on the cover. And I think by then it was understood by quite a few people, especially in the IT industry, that that very infantile technical area, that really we were on a pivotal moment of bringing that computer power to the masses, bringing it into the everyday life, into the business, into your home as well. But really, at the time, we didn't really understand the impacts to the world that was that personal computing, that computing power was going to have. It was before the internet, before mobile services, before streaming. The internet, streaming, mobile, and how that's going to affect our everyday life was really an unknown. But I think we're at that pivotal moment. And Time Magazine again in last year had ChatGPT on their front page as well, which is very unique for Time Magazine. I think people who know the magazine, they normally have people at the front. They have the kind of the profile pictures. So it is very unusual for Time Magazine to do that. But 40 years later, we're kind of from that 1983. We're at a pivotal moment of that AI arms race, and pretty much everyone feels like they're talking about ChatGPT. I'm sure that you're on this call today because you go and I've used ChatGPT, but I don't really understand how we use it in our business, and hopefully we can answer that question today. To give you an idea of generative and the interest of generative and how it's exploded, especially at the advent of ChatGPT. But let's have a think about the timeline on this and how quickly did it take for 1 million users to use that platform. So if we think back, it took 192 months for the mobile phone, 84 months for the internet, believe it or not, 54 months for Facebook to get to 100 million users. But let's just think about this. 2 months it took for ChatGPT to get to 100 million users. Some of you might know Sam Altman. He was a big contributor, co-founder of the Y Combinator. So they're the people who done Airbnb, Dropbox, Stripe. He was also highly connected and within the initiative of creating Reddit. And lately, he was the CEO of OpenAI. And his quote there is, it is an exponential path of improvement of that technology. And it's going to have a massive impact and hopefully a positive impact on society. We've already seen that as is now, but it does come with it risks as well, which we'll cover in a second or two. So it really has been at pace. And I think that's where it shocked a lot of people, even in our industry, hasn't it, Ben? It's kind of like, how quickly has ChatGPT taken over the world? And everybody seems to be talking about it. So, but why has generative, I suppose, being so prolific in its an advancement, and I kind of look at this on two key factors really, is the tech and its usability. So on the tech side, you've kind of got this is just algorithms being built on each other, allowing patterns of predictive and natural language to become more effective. We've also got data and vast amounts of data expanding exponentially. And the advent of cheap, scalable computing and hardware that's easily accessible and scalable, sizable really quickly. And then on the other side, you've got the improvements of usability. So natural language interfaces have took a massive leap. Tooling on the libraries, frameworks, and models, etc., have also took a massive leap. And this essentially now comes together to look at all of those technical breakthroughs to allow anyone really with no technical expertise, no data science expertise, or a background in any of this tooling, to use generative AI and really reach levels previously not thought possible to create this new content, essentially. So, what is interesting is that if we kind of really test AI and generative AI against human benchmarks to really test their performance. We think of very much of humans being humans in it, and computers being computers doing maths in the background. But if we use for example, the bar exam, which is very human orientated, I suppose. You need a lot of information, but it is knowledge gathering at the end of the day. But if you took the bar exam and ChatGPT, they've done this with ChatGPT 3.5 back in November 2022. It was the bottom 10th percentile of the bar exam pass, not enough to pass. But just 3.5, 3.5 months later, 72 days later, with the GPT-4 being released, it's the top 90 percentile of the bar exam. That's just a monumental pace of change, and I think that strikes us all of the pace of change with this new technology. But where do we get the value? Companies are already seeing this value day in, day out. We've got GitHub, Copilot. That's seen a 55% increase reportedly on production of developers when generating code. Marketing and sales, the likes of Jasper, just producing that first draft copy, that marketing copy. Yeah, it needs to be polished by a human, but 80% reduction in time is a significant amount. And then on the customer service side, we've got the likes of Carrefour having a 75% reduction in human service contacts by adapting those chatbots. Leaving really the space and the time to deal with the high value questions and queries, coming into that business. So, hopefully that gives you some grounding on the kind of the basic principles of AI and how quickly it's changed our life, especially myself and people at Catalyst, very much so. But I think everyone asks the same question of really what is machine learning and how does it work? So at a very high level, generative AI, there's a lot of different definitions out there, but if we kind of anchor on kind of the following definition of that, it's really generative AI uses machine learning in essence to produce texts or images, audio, or even video. It's essentially producing new content, but it uses the principle of what they call, or what we call in the business, I suppose, large language models or LLMs. And I'm sure some of you in the call have heard of these LLMs, such as ChatGPT. You've used that. I'm sure a lot of people on the poll before, or Llama, or DALL-E, or Palm, for example. But these LLMs work by predicting the next possible value in a sequence. So, for example, if I wanted to produce the next paragraph of a book, then how do I do that? Well, if I use predictive, then if I've read the first few chapters, I could potentially predict that next paragraph by using an LLM. So it's definitely using probability to find the next value in the sequence. And a good example of this is on the right-hand side. So I've used our strat line. So you thought it was a bit of a splash of who we are, Catalyst BI, but it was used for demonstrating purposes of, if we ask the question from a predictive machine, who is Catalyst BI, we can use predictive ML or machine learning to predict the next sequence of words. So who are Catalyst BI? Well, we unlock insights and drive performance and create value. And it essentially is building up that sentence as we go down. So the output being the question that we asked. But that's great from ML, but how do we differentiate AI from predictive AI? Predictive AI learns from historic patterns to estimate a future state. So in predictive AI, we started with labeled data as the input. This data is fed into a machine learning model that discerns patterns between data and its corresponding labels. The output from this process could be something like a class, it could be a probability percentage, or just a number. And this allows us to make predictions based on historical patterns. For example, if we wanted to predict sales for next month, or the probability of an individual customer or that group of customers from churning, for example, where generative AI essentially interprets unstructured content and it synthesizes the likely response as the output, in essence. So it generates new or similar content, such as we've already said, text, images, audio, or video, instead of predicting outcomes. And that's a crucial concept change. It's essentially, generative AI is all about creating new context by using relevant outputs, in essence. And really, generative AI complements traditional ML by unlocking content generation capabilities. But traditional ML still persists and is still absolutely a core element of businesses who've developed it and deployed traditional machine learning to essentially to generate those valuable insights. And really, where predictive AI still sits is to allow you to make those informed decisions based on predictions. But generative essentially is creating those new content elements. So how does that look in the real world then? So let's take an example. So there's a hypothetical example. I'm a copywriter at Denim Direct. We sell jeans. It's an online retailer of jeans. I've been asked as a copywriter to generate 1,000 products in the online catalog. I need to create the content for that. 1,000 is a lot. But Denim Direct essentially is known. We're kind of known as that quirky conversational product descriptions online. So essentially, I'm kind of asking the question: how would we do this? How do we do this here and now? So, let's just why don't we just ask ChatGPT to generate the descriptions for each product one at a time? And for example, we could use to generate a product description of men's 512 slim taper jeans. I'm sure everybody is totally familiar with what those are. So if we ask ChatGPT, we put it in the description there, and I'll just zoom this up so you can see what it's come back with, ChatGPT. If you just take a minute there to read through that, we at Denim Direct are a bit quirky. Is that okay? Is that kind of the answer that we're looking for? Would that be exciting to put on the online brochure? Probably not. No. So what did we just do then? So to generate this response, essentially the copywriter, myself there, made use of a foundation model, what they call a foundation model, to generate that text. So a foundation model, those large language models that are pre-trained on a broad set of data. So this could be coming from Wikipedia, government sites, social media, books, or even private data sets. It doesn't have to be public data sets. And it essentially enables them to make human-like text, making complex predictions and to understand those tasks and patterns. But those foundation models are essentially the heart of generative AI, but they are like a Swiss Army knife and can be used for a large range of tasks. But they're not always the best choice for every task. And foundation models exist, for text, audio, and images, but they are quick and easy to use. But sometimes they just don't align with your scenario. In this instance, they don't align with our brand and voice and style. So why don't we refine our approach and provide more detailed instructions to the model? We can instruct the model by to be quirky, conversational, descriptive, and essentially similar to an existing product descriptions on the Denim site. So let's share an example with an existing product description that's already been created and see how it does this time. So with this new approach, and I'll zoom this up in a second, how good is this? Is this better? Well, yes, it is. It's a little bit better. But I've had to do that one at a time. So in essence, we're prompting the ChatGPT in this instance to create this response. But really, we have to do that one at a time. It is a good illustration of prompting. Excuse me. But we still have to provide specific instructions to that LLM in order to provide that additional context. So this prompt engineering or tuning is the practice of developing and optimizing prompts to use that large language model for a variety of applications. There's a lot of techniques here for designing and affecting prompts. We could offer context, provide examples, provide that output that we're looking for. The pros and cons you can see there. It matches our brand and style now. It's still easy to use, but we have to still do this one at a time for every item that we have to do. So in this scenario, to do this 1,000 times is a bit cumbersome. It's expensive both in cost and latency, and it still hasn't captured our style. So the copywriter we still don't want to do that. As a copywriter, I need to provide examples every time over and over again. So, this is going to cost me a long time and effort. So what we want to now do is we want to now try using an alternative to prompting, which is fine tuning. So this fine tuning is a method of where we use pre-trained foundational models, and then we further train that on a large task-specific data set. So fine tuning is essentially a model of your specific task data, and it'll yield best results in the terms of accuracy and relevance to the task. However, we do have minimal content or examples. In order to essentially do this, we are going to have to give it quite a lot of data. So typically anything over 500 needs a data set to learn that. So, and it really requires technical expertise. So, where we're fine tuning now, we need someone with that data science understanding to really hone that. So, it's slightly different to prompting where we can really do that ourselves with no real expertise. So, let's do a quick recap on this one. And let's imagine that a foundation model is a new recruit to our company. They're fresh from university. They studied a broad range of subjects. They're good and they can answer a lot, but they don't know anything about your company. So customers are essentially the way how we work within Catalyst, for example, or the denim example. So they need further guidance. Otherwise, the answers they provide won't take into account your specific situation, in essence. So where prompting really is like providing this recruit with a detailed brief or context for every request. You're clarifying what's required, giving them guidance, giving them guidance on the format, the data, the relevant data, the output, etc. And this is great, it's flexible, but it can be a little bit tedious if you have to do this every single time. Where if we take as an example of this raw recruit doing some fine tuning, on the other hand, This is like sending them to a specialist training camp. It prepares them to essentially gives them exactly the knowledge that you want them to do. But you have to, you don't have to provide them with extensive context for every question. They can perform efficiently with less direction, etc. But in order to formulate that training plan and training model, it essentially takes a long time. But on the longer run, it actually pays dividends. So, they are opportunities. We'll go into opportunities in a second. But hopefully now you can understand what the high level what AI is, how it's generated, how it works alongside generative, and some high level concepts, so fine tuning, etc., and prompting, and hopefully you can take some of those prompting ideas into your ChatGPT usage. But let's look at some opportunities in the art of the possible. How do we use this in everyday life? So if we take let's take some good examples here. So if we take some fun examples of, and if you haven't seen this, the Balenciaga pulp or Balenciaga Harry Potter video, there were fake videos that at the time they were taken really seriously of, how can the Pope wear this padded jacket, and they've done a sequence of video images that were hyper realistic. So we have to be. It is useful to produce those realistic videos and photos. If you haven't seen that, the Harry Potter one, if you're a Harry Potter fan, it's a fantastic video of the cast in Balenciaga clothing walking up and down a catwalk, and it's super realistic. So that's fun, and it is amazing. But you have to also think of generative AI being useful in producing those videos and content, and there are risks to that, obviously. But also if you take an example, and this is a real example of where sometimes generative AI gets a little bit of things wrong and essentially creates an ad hoc word called snacksident. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Snacksident. And it even gives you an example sentence of how and where to use this. So you just have to be really careful. It can kind of make things up as well as create new content for you. But why, if we take a framework here for opportunities, and on the left hand side, if we have a low complexity moving from an internal use to a high complexity using a public use, or maybe something into your customers. From a internal use, basic prompting of pipelines are great to get started with. Communications, ghostwriting, knowledge bases, question and answers, that kind of thing. Basic research using ChatGPT, or even using a bespoke version of ChatGPT or the like to answer those questions. But where there's still human in a loop, is easy to get started with ChatGPT. Public-facing opportunities, on the other hand, using those advanced prompting change and more trained models can really be of benefit, but it does come with a bit of caution here. You do get a potential reputational damage to think about here, with maybe incorrect responses. So great for procedural and process questions back out to your customers, for example. But you could potentially open yourselves up for adversarial users to essentially use that in a profoundly different way, or a way that you've never perceived that end users. So maybe co-pilots or inquiry routing, etc., would be good examples of that. But you do need to have additional testing and monitoring governance to make sure that public-facing or customer-facing generative models are monitored to give accurate responses. But where do we see Catalyst? Where do we see the trend here? And I think the big trend that we've seen is I've put into kind of three big pots here of knowledge management, content generation, and agents. So, from a content management perspective, let's use your own data to do question and answers on knowledge bases, enhanced searching mechanisms, using the likes of, imagine ChatGPT with the back end of all of your data sets, for example, and how valuable that would be to your internal users. From a content generation, I'm sure some of you already from the first poll are already using this for ChatGPT. Brainstorming, visual assets, summarization of data, whether it be internal data or external data. Give me a summary of what generative AI is, for example. I'm sure you've already typed that into ChatGPT. It's a really good answer. So if you haven't, do that. And then finally, agents. We've all had the interaction with agents, chatbots, virtual assistants. Allowing your business to deal with the run rate questions back to your customers, and then allowing those agents and that time that will relieve to those agents to be either redeployed within the organization or really spending time on the high value questions that are coming through there, offloading those tasks in essence. So really, I'd like to do a secondary poll now, if that's okay. Hopefully you've still got that question or that the Slido page still open. So please put your questions in there, and we'll do a secondary poll now, which is essentially, given all what we just talked about, and I know it's really brief, it's just over 30 minutes now, but where do you see your use case most promising for your business area? Is it that content? Is it that knowledge management? Is it a chatbot? Or are you still in that vein of not really sure? Again, please do ask your questions while you're putting those answers in there. Ben, do we have any questions coming through? Are people using that?
Yeah, we've had 3 questions through so far, Lee, that we can cover at the end.
Brilliant. We'll cover your questions right at the end as well. So now, when we ask this of most customers, when we have a first conversation at Catalyst, everybody just goes straight to the chatbot. So I'm really interested that we do have knowledge management, because everyone just goes, oh, it's a chatbot, we can stick it online, and that has absolute usage. But where we see the massive here and now benefits is that content generation, is that knowledge management. So I'm quite pleased that with those answers. So again, thank you for that. Thank you for the interaction on that one. So, we still got an answer there. Thank you. Last moment, person. So if you'd like to leave that window open, we will have another poll, so don't worry. But and also, please keep putting your questions in there as you go along. We'll answer them at the end. So finally, from a considerations and risks, I suppose, we've kind of I've alluded to some risks through this, and I'm sure you've seen that, in the press, etc. But if we take this example of a real example, and please do this in ChatGPT as well. If we ask it a question, what is the world record for crossing the English Channel entirely on foot? It's a great example of how these models can work. And the answer is confident, which I've highlighted at the bottom. Please scan it. But really, it's came back with an absurd answer. Many people have attempted to cross on foot, but it's very challenging. I'm sure it is very challenging to cross the channel on foot. But because we've asked an absurd question, it's given us a relatively correct answer, but the answer is equally absurd. And this is basically because LLMs by themselves are great at statistical approximation on what is a plausible answer in essence. But it can only do that within the context of the question, well, the prompt. They don't actually understand anything. This isn't true intelligence, as it were. But as you can imagine, this introduces quite a lot of risk. And if I use a real example here, it is slightly subtle, but a New York lawyer used ChatGPT to cite 6 non-existent cases in a court in a live court. That particular lawyer was fined $5,000 by the judge, and essentially for submitting fake court citations. Now, as far as he was concerned, those were real court citations. There were real, essentially, briefs that were real. ChatGPT essentially made them up for him, and he was fined and forced to take another legal ethics course. So, it just highlights some risks that users and some users are really not aware of the limitations of these AI tools. And you have to be careful about how and when you use these, and make sure that you output the validity of these. So that goes for everyone on the call, I suppose, of that understanding when you're using ChatGPT. Just be careful and add the output, because sometimes it's not always what you expect. But if we summarize this, and as we move forward and embrace generative AI, moving forward and with all of its fantastic improvements, we have to recognize that there are a number of risks associated with using this, and increasingly manifesting itself in real world scenarios. So fairness and bias, you can have encoded bias coming from badly trained data, or even the developer that's created the prompting, or the fine tuning of that. We can have intelligent, from an IP perspective, sorry. You've got training data, the model outputs could essentially infringe upon legal protected materials. Privacy, getting your private data in an LLM is the database behind it. That's obvious, that you can come up with some potentially identifying information coming up. Security, bad actors, cyber attacks, malicious. You can use an LLM to identify holes in security and exploit those. Reliability and explainability, it's a challenge to really understand the answer, to how did he get to that answer, and understand the output of that generative output. And then finally, social environmental. We must be mindful, essentially, the potential of the impacts of social environmental. We've got job displacement and things like increased carbon emissions of the extra compute that this is needed. So as we continue to innovate with generative, it's absolutely crucial to address these risks and be proactive and responsible with these. So what is the challenges I see moving forward? And they are unique, really, I suppose, to generative, but we do need to acknowledge these. We've got cost and ownership. Training and hosting these models can come with a high cost, and sometimes the relatively technical. So some models are only coming via APIs in essence. So the cost of hosting, and there's sometimes variable cost of hosting for that. And the integration of that can come at some cost, because it's highly skilled people that need to implement these solutions. Training, we've already mentioned of that fine tuning and prompting engine. If you get your prompt wrong, you're gonna get your answer wrong. So really, you need to be careful on how that's fine tuned, and if you are using prompting, how that prompting engineering is essentially done. Reproducibility, and how adaptable that model is. Proprietary models are hard to reproduce, and these can be, there could be issues with validating and understanding or reporting them to specific or different domains. And then finally, monitoring. We've already mentioned about monitoring and looking for the output and making sure the output of these models are good, but they can quickly become outdated or out of sync with data. Monitoring for what we call hallucinations or topic drift, relevancy, safety, etc. It's critical to make sure that the output of these is accurate and still within the parameters that you require them to be. So where does this leave us then? I suppose from we've now covered generative high-level concepts, the art of the possible, how you can maybe use them in your own business. But I just want to spend 2 minutes just talking about DataRobot's generative AI. It is our favorite platform to deliver both predictive and generative. And why is that? Well, basically because DataRobot can essentially take tabular, so structured and unstructured data, essentially, and it will create your vector database. It will automatically create your model, create those prompting strategies for you. It will still do predictive alongside that as well. to give you that predictive generation, but it'll actually do it in a production environment that allows you to have a deployment environment with actual governance. It's a good example there from Ford Direct, and a quote from Ford Direct there of how it helped them maintain the reputation for internal and externally by using generative. So, why is that? I suppose why DataRobot? They are on the right hand side. You'll see a number of the stats that kind of speaks for themselves. But the fact that it's a platform that you can do both generative and predictive in, so you can do that knowledge base, that fine tuning, that LLM and that LLM ops and AI ops is become to know from the predictive side. But you can do all of the true validity or get true value from your time series, your geospatial, your deployment, what if analysis, etc. So your traditional machine learning AI and predictive AI, and you can combine those together in the same platform, and that's quite unique within the industry. And then finally, what I'd like to do is just finish this up with some practical tips. From a practical standpoint, and where we've seen this deployed over multiple customers, there are a number of pointers that we have the same conversations over and over again. How do I deploy this? What do I do? What is the change within my organization? What do I need to do? So, and you're probably sat there thinking, if you haven't done any deployment at all, how do I start this journey? How do I get involved with this? Well, these are my kind of top tips, and both me and Ben see this time and time again. You need that cross-functional leaders, a group of leaders, just like any business change project. You need to build a knowledge base and quickly. And the way you do that is by experimenting. Don't be frightened of that word. Get involved. Start using generative here and now. Identify that roadmap without true ROI. It's not that hard to do an ideation process and understand within your business what challenges can be addressed by using generative AI. But make sure you've got an ROI handle on that one. And don't get focusing on that lighthouse use case and get sucked in and only that one use case. Have that roadmap of multiples in there. Have those guidelines for responsible use internally. How are you using AI? So how are you using AI currently? If you think you're not using AI in your business, I think if you ask the rest of your business how they're using AI and how they're using ChatGPT, the answer is probably yes. Do you have guide rails for the use of ChatGPT? Is the question I'd be asking there. Stay in line with regulations. Obviously, we've got the new law coming through, EU legislation coming through to help with that. So that'll help in the back end of this year. But again, you need to understand what those are, and if you don't, then again, we can help with that. Have a chat with Catalyst. We can aid and guide you through that process. Strategies and alliances to essentially, again, this is about the business change to accelerate execution. Understand the capabilities, train and educate your team, and that culture, that foster a culture of learning and experimentation can massively help as well. So those hopefully will be a good guide. But if any of these strike home, then please do reach out. How can we help? I suppose we can, not only can we do the tech and we can help you implement, we can help identify the opportunities in your business, really work and help you ideate that process and understand the high value, low complex deliveries that will essentially get you to a solution very quick. Consider those quick wins and help you build that roadmap with true ROI. So if you are thinking there, I've got a handful of ideas here, get us involved with the process. We've been there, done that, and we can potentially help with you. And then final poll. So don't worry, we're nearly there. So what do you think your next steps are? Be interesting to know after you've now gone through that process. And again, you can use that Slido. Hopefully, have come away with some thoughts and ideas of how how to tackle generative AI, putting those guide rails in your internal organization, and potentially, Catalyst may or may not help that. DataRobot may or may not help. You might have already deployed into Azure or other products. So, and not surprisingly, yeah, discuss internally is the normal process, and get started. I think where we'd like to see is kind of, well, how do you get that internal discussion into a getting started conversation? Because we are at a hype curve of generative AI. It is every second word on everyone's lips, I think, at the moment. But how do you get involved with that? So yeah, thank you for that. That's good. And then finally, if you do want to get involved, we've got a Catalyst program. So Ben, do you want to quickly explain what we can do here for
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Lee.
the audience?
So if you would like to learn more about how you can leverage DataRobot's unique GenAI toolkit to create a Q&A app from an internal knowledge base, so a bunch of PDFs to start with, please use the QR code on the screen or the link below to register, and we'll be in touch after the session to arrange a free hands-on workshop. Just to confirm, you don't need to be hugely technical to take part in this workshop. There is no coding necessary or anything like that, or any prior experience with GenAI, so it is suitable for any professional who's interested in learning more about generative AI with DataRobot.
Thank you, Ben. Yeah, Ben will be running those sessions, so please do reach out, sign up, follow the link. We'll send these details out after the call, after we finish today. But please do just reach out. I just wanted to finish off by saying thank you for your time today. We've got our LinkedIn and our details there, so please reach out if there's any questions on that. And Ben, do we have any Slido questions?
We've had a few through, yeah. I think we've got time to cover off a couple.
Yeah.
So we'll
Hopefully we've
start
got a
with
couple of minutes left.
the first question is GenAI just about chatbots and improving proposal writing? And no, although those are kind of two key use cases for generative AI, it's also for creating new content with a variety of types, including kind of images, audio, and video, and also assisting all areas of the business. So developers with generating code, or acting as kind of a virtual assistant, being able to summarize meeting notes or a huge collection of documents. A couple of examples.
Okay, great. We've probably got a couple more, maybe. Ben, have we got a few more?
Yeah, sure. This might be one that you're best placed to answer, I think, Lee, which is what's the Click doing in predictive and generative AI?
Okay, great. So what Clicker's doing, I think we are a Click partner. I think the big benefit of using Click to do your predictive AI is essence. You've already got your data in Click, so you don't have to do an awful lot to take that data and push it into a model. It's not days of work; it's hours of work, and it's used on you don't need to be a data scientist either. So in order to use DataRobot, in order to use Click, especially Click, they've made it in such a way that anyone with some basic expertise can start to use Click without any background in data scientists, without any data science background, shall I say. So they don't have to be a Ben. They don't have to have your ARM and Python skills and everything else. And then from a generative perspective, Click's had AI in where you can ask a question of your data and it'll look through all of the apps and generate you a chart from the answer. So what is my sales broken down? And you can ask a sequence of questions from it, broken down by month or year, and it will actually produce those charts for you. And you can even hook it up to the likes of your Teams channel, for example. So that's quite cool to see. So if you haven't seen that, if you're a Click customer, then reach out to us. It's good to see you in action. We are slightly over, but maybe one more question, Ben. We're pushing it, maybe, but and please feel free if you do have any questions, then put them in. We will answer the questions, even if you hadn't had time, directly over, and we'll have a conversation. If you've left your email address, we can pick those up. But please do reach out. So maybe one more, Ben. We're pushing our luck a little bit on time, but let's do this.
Yeah, sure. So we've got a question here of why would you use DataRobot over using Python and industry standard libraries such as PyTorch?
Oh,
And the main reason for using DataRobot is the speed to delivery. It's all built-in compliance monitoring, all within a highly secure SaaS platform. that will save you a ton of time in deploying all of your GenAI models. Is there
It
anything
does.
you've got on that
Yeah,
one?
it does. And also, what we also have done with the customer is actually deployed that within their infrastructure. So if you are concerned about your data, your home data, you're not stuck in that SaaS model. You can actually deploy DataRobot in your hyperscaler and have your own local install of DataRobot as well. But I think what Ben says about it's speed of delivery, isn't it, Ben? You can deliver very, very quickly, both in Click and DataRobot, but especially DataRobot, and start your generative process, enormously quick, can't you, Ben?
Yeah, definitely, especially in kind of the proof of concept and proof of value stage. I mean, with no coding experience, you can start to experiment with building out your own GenAI models and fine-tuning the existing foundation models based on your own data sets within, a matter of hours, not days or weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And please do. I'll just flash this up again. Please do sign up for the free hands works on session through with Ben. You can see DataRobot, generative AI. You can create your own vector. It's very technical. You can create your own LLM. You can create your own vector database from your data, your unstructured data, or we could use our examples. Really, really nice to see. So even if you're not techie, you just want to see how easy this thing is. Start experimenting, get on board with your journey. Then please reach out. Please sign up. But yeah, I think we've massively gone over time. We pushed our luck enough there, Ben. So thank you again, everybody on the call today. I'd just like to thank you for your time. And we do have this session recorded, so we'll put it online later today, hopefully. He says, our marketing people are now kicking me underneath the desk. We'll send this out when it's recorded and sent out, and please feel free to send it out to your colleagues or anyone who's interested. Thank you again for your time.
Thanks for your time, everybody.
Cheers now.